Businesses waste $122 million for every $1 billion spent on projects due to poor project management practices that look like this. Your project closes, someone writes up a lessons learned, stores it away, and within 30 days, the next team makes the exact same mistakes. Rinse and repeat. Most leaders are shocked to learn that the number one divider of this problem isn't talent, budget, or even market conditions. It's the result of knowledge that exists within the business, but never reaches the next decision. Lessons learned sessions are one of the most widely practiced yet least efficient disciplines in business because the systems, culture, and beliefs surrounding them are often broken. Let's fix this efficiency. Hi, I'm Summer, founder of Driven Connection, and we help eliminate inefficiencies that impact profitability, expansion, and people. PMI defines lessons learned as the documented information that reflects both positive and negative project experiences. It's a shared knowledge asset for the entire business, not just a post-project formality. Their framework has 5 steps: identify, document, analyze, store, and retrieve. Most organizations execute the first 2, but the other 3, the ones that create the actual operational value, that's where the processes collapse. The real definition of a lessons learned session is the mechanism by which an organization avoids paying for the same mistake twice. Every team that doesn't follow this compounds operational debt, which is invisible on dashboards until it shows up as turnover, client churn, or cost overruns that shouldn't have happened. I've led hundreds of lessons learned sessions across industries, company sizes, and project types. The ones I think about most were the ones where I could feel what wasn't being said by the end of a session. There are rooms where people talk with their eyes, where a team member will glance at a colleague when a certain topic comes up and then they look away, when an answer lands too quickly, too cleanly, too carefully, where the most senior person in the room says, "I think everything went pretty well," and everyone nods in a way that means the opposite. These are the lessons where the psychological cost of honesty is too high, where something happened, a bad call, a missed commitment, a process that was always broken. And everyone in the room knows it, but no one says it because experience has taught them that saying it changes nothing, or worse, reflects badly on the person who said it. I leave those sessions wondering how much growth was sitting in that room completely unreachable. How many problems that would show up again in the next project had they been identified by people who'd stopped believing it was worth their time and risk to name them. Here are 3 of the most common failures of lessons learned. The first is the post-mortem theater. A session happens, a polished report is produced, and it goes into a share drive that no one ever opens again. The performance of learning replaces the substance of it. Amy Edmondson of Harvard Business School documented this. Efforts led to no real change because managers were thinking about failure in the wrong way. The second is the blame session. Without skilled facilitation and a structured framework, what went wrong becomes who's responsible. People defend themselves instead of reflecting, and the session becomes emotionally expensive and strategically useless. The data you need never surfaces. And third, the costliest, is organizational silence. Research published in peer-reviewed journals shows that burnout and emotional exhaustion are strongly correlated with employee silence. When people stop believing their input will change anything, they stop giving it. Silence isn't an agreement. It's a sound of a team that has already decided that speaking up costs more than it's worth. Here's what determines quality. The quality of your lessons learned sessions depend on your ability to receive critical feedback without defensiveness. The Stoics call this equanimity, not performance calm, but actual stillness. When a team member names a decision that you made that contributes to a project's failure, equanimity is what allows you to say thank you and mean it. Without it, your reaction in that moment determines whether honest feedback will ever surface again. I'll say this next part directly. If your lessons learned sessions produce vague, positive skewed, or strategically useless feedback, you may be the reason. Edmondson also observed that leaders who shield their teams from discomfort are really shielding themselves from feedback that their organization could be learning from. When power is concentrated at the top, as is typical in businesses under 50 million, the emotional risk of criticizing the founder's decisions or processes is real. The result is what she calls the comfort zone, high enough psychological safety to be pleasant, not high enough to be honest. Follow these steps to change your business culture. Set the stage by framing the session explicitly. Say, we are here to improve systemic integrity, the way our processes work together, not to evaluate people. Then model fallibility. Share your own mistakes before asking others to share those. Invite participation genuinely by replacing any questions with, what would you do differently? Then respond productively. When someone raises a concern about your decisions, start by saying thank you as a practice. Before we dive into today's Lessons Learned session, I want to tell you the story of two organizations and their contrasting approaches to organizational learning. In July 2003, NASA launched the Space Shuttle Columbia with a known risk: foam insulation that had struck the wing on previous flights without catastrophic consequence. Engineers raised concerns. Mission Control dismissed them. The absence of prior consequences had become the evidence that risk was acceptable. Columbia disintegrated upon re-entry. 7 astronauts were lost. The Columbia Incident Identification Board identified the root cause not as the foam, but as NASA's organizational culture of normalizing deviance, where small warnings consistently ignored accumulated into a catastrophe that no one could stop. Toyota, however, built the opposite culture. They used tools like plan, do, check, act, the 5 whys, and A3 thinking as part of the operational culture. The person closest to the problem owns its resolution. Learning is treated as a living process, not a static document. The result is a multi-decade compounding operational improvement engine that competitors have been unable to replicate despite having access to the same documented methodology. The lesson from both: the small warnings your team stops raising are most likely to cripple you. So today's activity is the reflection register, a system-led approach for capturing, storing, and actually using what your organization learns from every project, engagement, or campaign. It has 4 components. First, the pre-session survey. Within 48 hours of project or milestone close, send a 3 to 5 question anonymous digital survey. Ask questions like, what went right? What went wrong? What would you change? What should the next team do? Have someone other than the project lead aggregate and anonymize the themes before the session. Second, during the session itself, which you should allow 60 to 90 minutes, invite a facilitator who is someone other than the project manager or the business owner. Data shows that teams are more likely to give high-quality feedback when these roles aren't leading the session. The facilitator should establish ground rules before the discussion opens, like no blame, use focus forward language, and equal voice. The structure matters less than the safety that is created so that the information learned can really be usable. Third, capture your minimum standard of information for learning. For every document for lessons learned, uncover the following: what happens in 2 or 3 sentences, why it matters as an impact statement, and what to do differently as a specific actionable recommendation. Store everything in one searchable, taggable repository. And last, close the loop. Every decision item gets a named owner and a deadline. At the start of a similar project, someone is responsible for pulling the respective entries from the reflection register and briefing the team so you don't make those same mistakes again. This is the step that separates lessons learned that are heard from lessons learned that are used. The fastest way to destroy lessons learned culture is to ask for feedback and then do nothing. A 2-year study of 1,130 employees found that 86% of participants were on trust erosion trajectories, triggering specifically by inconsistency in actions, failure to keep promises, lack of follow-through in communication. The organizational consequences are direct: decreased commitment, low task accuracy, and loss of the highest performers. And Gallup found that 70% of employee engagement variance is driven by the managers, a leader who solicits lessons and does nothing except maintain the status quo. And that's actively manufacturing disengagement. The behavioral prescription is simple and difficult. Never solicit feedback you're not prepared to act on or transparently explain why you can't. A response of, "We heard that, and here is why we can't change it now," helps preserve trust. Silence destroys it. Christina Garnett states it directly: trust is not lost in big failures. It's lost in the missed follow-through. The businesses that compound their average over time are those with the highest earning extraction rate. Start the reflection register with your next project. Send the anonymous survey within 48 hours of close. Run a 60-minute session with a neutral facilitator. Document what happened, why it happened, and what changes. Assign it to a named owner and pull it before the next similar project begins. Tell us in the comments, what's the #1 lesson your team keeps relearning that should already be in your new system? That's where you're gonna start. You're learning, you're growing, and you're building a system-led business that gets smarter with every project it completes. I'm Summer Ames Prodan, and we'll see you on the next installment of Driven Growth.